We the jury.
Welcome to day 2 of our trip to New York. It is Tuesday, May 18th. We're still in a traveling mode, obviously, from Australia, but it's good to have you with us this morning. And actually, it's nice to be back home, and we're just now,
starting to get over jet lag.
beginning to get into a sleep routine. I had the first sleep of more than 3 hours at a time last night, and it was a blessed relief. We're going to start this morning with the question, how is the president's economic program faring in the minds of business leaders? If the economy is to expand, they're going to have to invest, but a poll of the country's top CEOs by Fortune magazine indicates that 71% of those surveyed don't like the job that Bill Clinton's doing. So we're going to get details in this half hour from Fortune magazine, managing editor Marshall Loeb and John Scully, chairman of Apple Computer. Later in the program, we're going to bring you more in our week-long series on Joan's visit to the set of Home Improvement. Spencer is making a visit to the set of Good Morning America this morning.
Indeed. I was going to ask, how do you spell relief? But I guess for you, it's S-L-E-E-P. But
Right.
for much of the Northeast, it's R-A-I-N, which is in today's forecast. And I'll have that for you in just a few moments. Joan?
All right, well, also ahead, we're going to be talking with foreign correspondent Arthur Kent about his documentary on the Civil War in the former Yugoslavia. Fascinating project. He took a small handheld camera, not an entire crew, and risked a considerable amount of danger to spend time with all the different sides in this conflict, the Serbs, the Croats, and the Muslims. And the film was designed for the big screen, not television. It's already won several awards at a few film festivals here in the U.S., and we will talk with Arthur Kent in a few moments. Also take a look at some of the scenes from A View of Bosnia. Right now, though, Morton Dean has all the news of the day. Mort, good morning.
Good morning, Joan, and good morning, everyone. It was almost like old times last night in San Diego. There was President Clinton in front of a town meeting, just like before the election. Only last night the tables were turned. Mr. Clinton wasn't so much campaigning for his economic plans as he was defending them. For one thing, he said Republicans are spreading a big myth about him not proposing real spending cuts. The president also asked the middle class to be patient when it comes to the tax cuts he had promised.
Give me 4 years to try to deliver on the middle-class tax cut, but the first thing we need to do is drive the deficit down with cuts and some prudent revenue increases. Most of the people paying the taxes are people whose taxes were lowered while their incomes increased in the 1980s. And I think it's very important to get the budget back in balance.
Mr. Clinton's town meeting came at the end of a day that started in Los Alamos, New Mexico. He visited the lab where the atomic bomb was developed 50 years ago. The lab is now working with private industry on a number of civilian projects. The president said that's proof the defense industry can convert to peacetime work. New opportunities, new options, those are the stated goals of American policy in Bosnia now. Secretary of State Warren Christopher has begun talking by telephone with some of the allies. But he won't be joining them at the United Nations for a foreign ministers meeting. The U.S. apparently doesn't see much hope such a meeting would be fruitful in ending the split on how to deal with Bosnia. There's a meeting in Croatia today, a meeting of international mediators and the Croatian president. They're talking about the fighting in Bosnia between Muslims and Croats. And there's a meeting in Bosnia between the Serb leader and the chief UN peacekeeper. They're talking in Pale, where ABC's Jerry King joins us now. Good morning, Jerry, and any expectation that talks will lead to peace?
I don't think really, Mort. That's not really what they're talking about. General Morion came here saying that he wanted to talk to the Bosnian Serbs about making good on their talk about peace and pulling back some of their forces from the Sarajevo area and around Srebrenica and Zepa. Those talks can go on for a long time. As far as the Serbs are concerned, why should they pull back? There's no reason for them to pull back. They already have everyone in disarray in the outside world. And as the leader, Radovan Karadzic, said this morning, no one can impose a peace here.
If we take a bad solution and impose it, we would need 200,000 soldiers here for 20 years. And this is not a solution.
And a solution is not what they're talking about here. As I say, they're talking about a pullback, in essence, a step-by-step implementation of the Vance-Owen plan. That won't sit well here because, of course, on the weekend referendum, the results due tomorrow, we think, the Serbs have voted overwhelmingly against that Vance-Owen plan.
And, Jerry, briefly, you expect the fighting to go on, then, at least in some areas.
As far as the Bosnian Serbs are concerned, they're not fighting much here. The fighting is basically between the Croats and the Muslims. So the Bosnian Serbs are quite happy to keep things as they are. They've taken pretty much the territory they want. And as I say, with the rest of the world in disarray, they're happy to sit here and say, it's up to you to move next.
Right, Jerry. Thanks very much. Jerry King reporting this morning. An arrest in Sicily, Italian police arrested Benedetto Santapaula, the top-ranking mafia fugitive. He was picked up at an unguarded farmhouse in Sicily after 11 years on the run. Santapaula is allegedly Italy's number 2 mafia leader. The alleged number 1 man was arrested in January. Tomorrow is the 1-month anniversary of the fire that destroyed the Branch Davidian compound outside Waco, Texas. And it's taken this long to get the answers to the questions about how the cult members died and what the last moments inside Ranch Apocalypse may have been like. Here's ABC's Mark Potter.
Medical examiners say 22 children died from various causes during the Branch Davidian fire. All but one of the bodies were found in the concrete ammunition vault.
4 of the children were shot to death. The others sustained shrapnel injuries due to explosions in the bunker and died also of suffocation and smoke inhalation.
2 of the children were shot in the head, 2 in the chest. Others may have died when the vault collapsed or when the fire ignited hand grenades that were stored inside the vault. Pathologists have also determined that a total of 78 people died during the fire, which is 6 more than previously thought. During the autopsies, several bodies were found intermingled with the others. Doctors say 27 victims were shot. Medical examiner Nizam Parawani says although cult leader David Koresh was shot in the forehead and his lieutenant Steve Schneider was shot in the mouth, he is unable to say if the cult had a suicide pact. Now that authorities have finished sifting through the rubble, much of the compound has been leveled and has become quite a tourist attraction. Mark Potter, ABC News, Fort Worth, Texas.
It is illegal to exclude jurors from criminal and civil cases based on their race. And now the Supreme Court will decide whether the same applies to a juror's sex. The court has agreed to consider the case of an Alabama man who lost a paternity case 4 years ago. The man says his rights were violated because his case was heard by an all-female jury. We can view it as a reminder that we live in earthquake country, the words of a Caltech seismologist. The reminder to which he referred was a strong earthquake that shook both sides of the California-Nevada state line. The good news is that there were no injuries reported and only minor damage for yesterday's quake, which measures 6.0 on the Richter scale. And many people in Alaska were awake early this morning, jarred awake by an earthquake, 5.0 on the scale. No injuries, no damage reported there. And that's the news, and now here are Joan and Spencer, no doubt continuing to talk about their trip to Australia.
Well, actually, we've been talking about the weather here, too, more. Everything bloomed while we were gone.
And on them for their jobs. And President Clinton needs them to make his economic program work. The them I'm referring to are the CEOs of the Fortune 500, and they are not on the president's side, it would seem, because according to the Fortune magazine, 71% of the CEOs of the nation's 500 largest corporations disapprove of the president's overall job performance. So joining us now to discuss that is Marshall Loeb, managing editor of Fortune. And with us from our affiliate KGO in San Francisco, John Scully, chairman and CEO of Apple Computer, who is one of the minority of Clinton supporters among the Fortune 500 CEOs. I thank both of you for being with us. Marshall Loeb, let me start with you. My first thought is, so what? I mean, 71% of the CEOs may not approve of the president's rating, but I suspect a larger percentage of them voted for George Bush in the first place.
They voted for George Bush, but they were prepared to give President Clinton a break. He is their president. They were hoping for the best. He's turned out to be much more liberal and activist than they had anticipated. The country voted for a moderate Democrat. They got one who appears to be leaning more to the left, spending more than they had anticipated. It's important that these business leaders feel confident. At the moment, they're feeling quite uncertain. When they feel uncertain, they're not so very eager to invest in plants and equipment and hire people.
Isn't the root of their problem that he's taxing more than they want? If he were to turn around and say, okay, I won't raise the corporate tax rate, would 71% of them then support him instead of opposing?
No, I don't think you'd ever get 71% of the business leaders to support a Democratic president, but I think they'd be more confident and supportive if he'd concentrate more on reducing the deficit and on curing the problems that afflict the economy. Many of them say that he is trying to do too much too soon and therefore blurring the primary message, which is it's the economy, after all, that counts.
John Scully, I know you were among a group of business leaders that met with the president last week. Number one, do you think he's aware and worried about the fact that so many CEOs may have disquiet about him, and does he intend to do something about it?
Well, we did have a meeting with him, and he was very much engaged with the issues. The thing we were impressed with, Charlie, was that he was on top of all of the issues. He was aware of the lack of support he was getting from the CEOs in these polls. But I think the important thing was that, and he pointed it out to us, that he's the first president to really tackle some very tough fundamental issues like the deficit, like health care, like taxes, and he's bound to have some unpopularity.
Mr. Scully, though, martial law addresses what is the central point, and we were talking about it yesterday when we were having a political discussion about Bill Clinton, and that is that he is perceived as a different kind of president in terms of his policies as he was a candidate. Does business feel that as well?
I think there's some feeling in that area. I think that the business leaders who met with him last week said, let's focus on the things that you've already got on your desk now, not take new initiatives underway. Let's get back to cutting the deficit. That's probably been by far the most successful program that he has had so far for the economy. It's brought down interest rates by almost a full percentage point, which is equal to about $100 billion of stimulus. And I think the business leaders would like to see him take even further cuts in the deficit, and also to get more focused on the follow-through of his message. I think everyone was impressed with the State of the Union address. It was a very clear vision. What we weren't impressed with was the follow-on that came after that. We know as CEOs that it's the implementation that counts just as much as the strategy.
You mean you think he's unfocused since then?
No, I think he's been distracted by many issues that he really had no control over. First, Waco, what went on in Russia, Bosnia, just to name a few. And I think he's got to recognize that when the president speaks, that's what the whole world focuses on. So when he talks, he's really got to talk about the economy, the economy, the economy. And I think business leaders want to see him focus on implementation with the same energy that he put behind now analyzing the problems and giving us a very clear vision, something we hadn't had before.
Marshall Loeb, when you wrote about this, I was struck by the pessimism in the article. The first sentence is, can Bill Clinton save his presidency? Is that press hype? If the economy turns around, if he gets his program passed, if he gets his reconciliation bill, won't you be praising him 2 months from now?
Sure, if these various things happen, or even some of them, Charlie, then the president, of course, can have a successful first year and a successful presidency. But at this very moment, the presidency is at risk because he has lost the support or endangered the support of large constituencies, including some influential people such as the high executives of American business, the people who do the hiring. I agree totally with what John Scully has to say.
John Scully, Marshall Loeb, thank you both for being with us. Appreciate you being here. It is 15 minutes after the hour. We'll take a look at Bosnia from one foreign correspondent's view when we continue.
We ask the tough questions and give you the answers. Call today.
Joining us in our next half hour will be the President of Ireland, Mary Robinson.
17 minutes after right now, Arthur Kent is a television news correspondent whose Persian Gulf War reports amid Scud missile attacks earned him celebrity and perhaps an unwelcome nickname, the Scud Stud. Last summer, he left NBC News in a dispute over his contract, but he has continued reporting for other news organizations covering the war in Bosnia. And Arthur Kent is here this morning to discuss a documentary film he has written and photographed and edited and produced and narrated called A View of Bosnia. It has won a couple of awards recently, and here are a few moments from that film.
Few small European nations suffered as many civilian dead, injured, and displaced in World War II as Bosnia has in just 1 year of war. The world has even lost count. More than 150,000 people dead by some estimates. And still, no solution. Only the knowledge that this is happening. And that we have allowed it to happen.
And Arthur Kent is joining us this morning. Nice to have you here.
Good morning.
You go into a war zone like this, not with a crew and a producer and all that, but alone. What made you decide to do this?
Well, it's the kind of thing that I had done previously in Afghanistan, and I actually feel very comfortable moving in a really highly mobile way with a compact camera unit and with local people, guides, translators, and with the combatants, there's a certain degree of safety that is built into being at the sharp end with the people who are actually doing the fighting.
You talk about a certain degree of safety. I mean, for all the rest of us. I mean, you do end this with, I think it's 32 names of, am I right, 32 journalists who were killed? Why did you feel that was important?
Well, I think it's important for people to remember the names and the countries of origin. You know, 7 or 8 countries: Switzerland, Russia, Canada, Australia, United States, as well as Bosnia and Croatia. Journalists from around the world are going to Bosnia, covering this war under very risky circumstances, just so the people in the United States and in other countries can be informed as to what's going on there. And people should remember the sacrifices made by those people.
And you spent, I think, pretty much an equal amount of time with the Croats and with the Serbs, 3 weeks or so with each one.
That's right.
We've got some footage. You were with a young group, I think, of Serb guerrillas, right?
Chetniks, yes.
Led by a man named Vaska.
Vaska Vidovic.
All right, and a young machine gun operator named, is it Damir?
Damir.
Damir. This is a slightly violent, be forewarned.
One day I followed Damir, Vaska's Serb Chetnik sidekick. We drove quickly through Muslim-controlled hills. But not fast enough. We heard a muffled burst from a sniper's rifle. Damir's car ahead of us had been hit. A cry of pain told us Damir had been wounded. 7 bullets had ripped through the car. 2 of the sniper's rounds had found their mark. Damir refuses anesthetic and vows he'll be back in the fight by nightfall. This is the 4th time he's been wounded.
You know, there's really 3 sides in this conflict. There's no easily packageable answer to this, and it leaves Americans, I think, feeling frustrated. When it's hard to understand something, it's also hard sometimes to relate to it and therefore care about it. What do you want? You are our eyes and ears in this case. What do you want us to know about it? What do you want us to think about it?
You know, I think the most important thing to realize is that this war, with all its ferocity, the great loss of life and destruction, and the capacity it has to spread, not just directly, but by giving an example to extremist movements elsewhere in Eastern Europe and the Middle East and the former Soviet Union, this is already destabilizing countries like Britain and France and Germany. You can feel the earth moving politically and economically. And if this war spreads, as it is doing now, in 6 months' time, it will be affecting the economies of cities right here in North America. The choice is simple. Either some kind of intervention now to stop the war, or we will be forced in 6 months or a year's time to make a major deployment of forces overseas. We're not talking about tens of thousands of troops. Hundreds of thousands of troops will be needed to quell this war as it spreads across Europe.
So we're not meddling. We're not trying to be the police of the world. There's a vested interest here.
Absolutely.
That you absolutely have to take action on.
A self-interest for Americans, Canadians, and Britons, people everywhere. This kind of genocide, this kind of ferocious intercommunal strife can spread. And when it starts to spread, as we've seen in 2 world wars before us, it could go anywhere.
Very scary. A view from Bosnia. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
We'll be back in a moment.
What separates Easy Spirit from other walking shoes is what separates your foot from the ground.
These are some other simple things that you can do. If you have a meal, don't lie down immediately after eating. All of us have that tendency to...
Want to take a little nap or something?
Yeah, a little snooze, and pretty soon we're all lying flat.
And what happens then?
The stomach acid comes back up into the esophagus and can cause heartburn.
So you've had a wonderful nap and you wake up and you feel pretty lousy.
Right, so don't do that.
Is there a danger? Because I think some people almost get into a cycle. They're on the run, they're grabbing meals, slamming down fast food, and right afterwards, they frequently are taking over-the-counter antacids, that sort of stuff. Is there a danger in that?
I think that there are 2 dangers in that. One is if you're taking excessive antacids, 5, 6 times a day or more, that can cause a problem with calcium and some other metabolic problems. But the other thing is if you're taking antacids 5, 6 times a day, that may be a medical problem, a more serious medical problem than just the run-of-the-mill heartburn, indigestion.
In the 30 seconds or so we have left, tell people how they can know the difference between the kinds of feelings in their inside that might be the precursor to a heart attack and the regular run-of-the-mill sorts of indigestion that we've been talking about for the last 3 minutes or so.
I think the key here is that you have to pay attention to your body. Very important. Antacids will relieve most of the acid-induced pain in the stomach, at least for a short time. So if you're having heartburn, you reach for the Rolaids, you reach for the Tums, you'll get better over a few minutes. It may come back in the next morning. But if it's not your stomach, that discomfort isn't going to get better with the antacid. So if you have a pressure in the stomach, it may actually be your heart, but it may be a pain that isn't getting better. So pay attention to the pains that don't get better.
And see the doc. Dr. Ruderman, do appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. 24 minutes before the hour, next on CBS This Morning, another real lifesaver, another hero of Rescue 911.
I didn't know anything about first aid, but I watched Rescue 911, and I held her nose and breathed into her mouth.
O can be one-on-one, or O can be two. O is what holds companions together. O is the new Olympus Stylus Zoom, a weatherproof compact camera with 2 times zoom, so that you can get close to any moment, because very often 2 becomes 4. Olympus, never miss another O.
Unlike most mulching mowers, Toro Recycler lawnmowers can cut even tall grass without leaving behind messy clumps of grass clippings. So the only thing a Toro Recycler does leave behind is most mulching mowers. Recycler lawnmowers, only from Toro.
All God's creatures get constipated, and most of them solve it naturally. Now you can too, with Per Diem, a 100% natural laxative that works just as fast as all the chemical ones.
9 out of 10 dentists report patients don't brush long enough, which could lead to ugly tartar buildup. The solution? Regular checkups and a tartar-controlled toothpaste that's not only clinically proven, but also tastes great, like Aquafresh. Look, the American Dental Association says Aquafresh is an effective decay-preventive dentifrice that has been shown to reduce the formation of tartar with a taste that helps keep your family brushing. 9 out of 10 dentists ought to like that. Aquafresh, it's striped to fight.
When you build appliances for as many generations as Frigidaire, you learn what families really need. Appliances styled and crafted so timelessly.
Daddy's meeting with the chairman today.
You can never outgrow them. The new Frigidaire, a complete line of quality crafted appliances.
You can be a chairman? Yeah.
Built to age beautifully.
When I was your first breakfast meeting. Frigidaire, built for generations.
This portion of CBS This Morning is sponsored by MCI, the long-distance phone company that brings you friends and family.
It's 22 minutes before the hour. Every week, the popular CBS series Rescue 911 recreates stories of life-saving heroism. And this week, we're saluting those Rescue 911 heroes. This morning, Mark Gardner, who single-handedly saved teenager Jamie Scavona from almost certain death when she was pinned in an overturned pickup truck. Here's how the story was dramatized.
She was not paying attention to what she was doing.
I run across the freeway, and I seen a teenage girl crawling out of the passenger side. Lay down, lay down, lay down. The other girl, if I didn't do something, she was going to die. I was just going to try to lift the truck a little where she could breathe. But when I started up with it, I just kept on going. I didn't know anything about first aid, but I watched Rescue 911,
and I held her nose and breathed into her mouth. I just wanted to keep her breathing until somebody with experience got there.
Now meet the real people in the story, Jamie Scavona and her mother, Carolyn Turnwall, and the heroic passerby, Mark Gardner. When you watch that video, can you even believe you're alive today, Jamie?
It's very hard to believe.
It's 2 years since this accident. How are you doing physically?
Oh, great. I've recovered fully, so.
What goes through your mind when not only when you acted in the dramatization, but when you see any pictures that remind you of this horrible accident?
I just remember that, I mean, I had a great time reenacting it, and I got to really see what happened, and, you know, it put me at ease to be able to know what I went through because I wasn't really coherent during the accident. So.
Mark, the most stunning thing about this is when you arrived on the scene, you were one of the first to get there, but you soon found yourself with all these rubberneckers, 50, 60 people standing around you who didn't lift a finger.
Nobody would do nothing.
Why?
It's a good question.